You heard right, folks. We are getting into map 2 here, and we're going to the brand new Nighthaven. The first time that I have casted this with UM, and I believe only the second time that this map has been played in the Korea League. So what a treat!
Have you cast it at all?
I actually did. I casted it once in US, but I can't remember it.
I've also casted it once. So it's still a magical time for the pair of us.
It is. It is.
This is when we come together with calls that the other doesn't use.
That's right. You probably have weird calls because you're from Europe and you listen to Fresh and all his nonsense, don't you?
Well, this is how we build calls in EUL. Is Fresh obviously comes in with a lot of calls,
with objectively wrong ones.
He comes in with champion ranked calls of Europe, which he builds from the people he plays with, and he plays with a lot of people. And he obviously his stack consists of a lot of coaches and people. And then that is put together with the work of Des, who messages a lot of teams, especially UK teams, and says, what's your calls? Like, what do you call this? What do you call that? And those two come together and they argue for a few days as to what the proper call is. And then it ends up as a Twitter poll. And yeah, and that's where our calls are built. For example, what do you call it, CC, or do you call it Aqua?
The staircase or the
top
room?
Of the staircase.
I just call that blue. Top blue.
See? We call it Aqua. This is already so crazy.
Yeah.
If I say Aqua, that's what I'm talking about.
I gathered that. I've heard people call it fish, and I don't
I've
like
heard
it.
fish.
I don't like it. I don't like it.
You don't like fish? That's fine.
I mean, maybe with chips, sure, but not in my call-outs.
Love a good fish and chips. Alright, let's get in. Now, if you're unaware of this map, this is one of the new maps added to the pool, Nighthaven Labs. It's also one of the new maps. It is the home of Carly and friends. This is where they live, and this is where they hang out all the time. So there's a lot of reference to the Nighthaven operators.
Yeah,
there's
I guess
also
it's in the
weird
name.
cereal. You go, and then I'll go back.
I said it's in the name, right? Nighthaven Labs.
Yeah.
That's the first secret reference to Nighthaven team. Not very secret.
No. You want to know about the weird cereal on this map?
Yeah, I'd love to.
All right. We don't have control of the server, so we can't have a look. But you can have a look in your spare time. If you're ever in the kitchen, the labels of the cereal, one of them is just called Brick.
That sounds delicious.
It's like Brick. It's like Toadies. And then I can't remember what the third one is called. But it really is like... what is it? They just wanted no risk of it being an actual brand.
Yeah, no risk of anyone ever accidentally wanting to eat some, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, let's have a look at this. Maverick and Glaz are teaming up for a very cheeky, aggressive pick here. It's an interesting choice. It might not work because Glaz does not have a very fast rate of fire. Is that smoke going to fully cover? That's my question. This smoke-Glaz combo, the Maverick-Glaz combo, something that was popularized a little bit by Varel in Stage 1,
yeah,
the Japan League, but I haven't seen it become mainstream.
It seems like they've not done that well, let's be honest. Obviously, the first smoke sort of popped. They didn't even have the shot through it. It's now just being softed. It was almost a bit premature that the Glaz tried to get the impact on the back end of it, and they wanted to try and bait it. Maybe they just wanted to sort of say, look, we are here, we are putting the pressure in. It didn't quite amount to what they wanted it to. Things happen. We move away from it. At this point, as we said, WEBL, this is their map pick. This is their chance. If they get a couple of rounds early here, that will be such a big momentum. And there's the first. Naps removes Baguette.
Indeed, the first pick going there for WEBL, and they have made some decent headway here in terms of the breach ability. We got the external IT wall open, and a second pick now. This is very nice now for WEBL, with this top garage control in their hands, and that can cut the site into. Islet is under a world of pressure here, and now falling back into electrical. The execute is very much imminent here, as the Glaz has dispatched with his first or second smoke. And now another pick for Ran, as it's all gone to the toilet for BNA. How are they going to try and bring this back? 2 versus 5. I just don't see this one working at all.
They have the crossfire on the door, but they've slunk their way into the other side of the site. Temmie could try and C4, but as soon as they pop up, they get ripped apart. A flawless opening here for WEBL on the top floor take, and I mean, they just had that one soft wall and that one hard wall and that one bit of cover they needed.
That's it. I mean, it's a magic what you can do when you've got a couple of breaches and a couple of picks. Of course, the advantage tends to spiral, and there's not a lot of ways to come back in a 2 versus 5 in that position. Really, it will just come down to denying the plan and landing a couple of nice shots. Fortunately for BNA, it tends to be WEBL in this series who have had the clutch ability that you would need to come back in a situation like that. So for BNA, back to the drawing board. A lot of things went wrong there, and if I'm them, I'm going down to the basement, changing the sites. And it looks like they have the same idea. They say, look, didn't work so well on the top floor, so let's completely change our tack. Instead of trying to directly address what went wrong last round, let's just mix it up.
Yeah, and you know, you can't mix it up as much as going on to the basement. It's always hard to sort of compare maps and how they play and how they feel. If anything, from the sort of early doors of how this has felt like teams are holding it, Clubhouse is the easiest to draw a couple of comparisons to. Down here on the basement, there's a couple of routes through. There's some big chunks of soft above one of the sites itself with a couple of chances of hatch drops. However, a team can set themselves up for a bit of a white hold underneath. There's, you know, a bit of a roam game that wastes time, falls down the separate sets of stairs because there's sort of 2 different routes down via staircases and the hatch in the corner. It has a little bit of Church Arsenal feel about it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. But of course, the roam game is also very... Yeah, I mean, of course, your opinion would be invalid if I didn't agree with you, Emmy.
Hey, I would cry.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing that we agree, because otherwise we probably wouldn't be able to cast together.
No, you'd have to leave. You'd have to have Hap, unfortunately.
Ah, shame. Maybe for next game. How about that?
Yeah, all right.
Okay, let's continue. Roam game and roam clear, of course. So BNA have Supreme here in storage. Now this is directly above the bomb site, and as you can see, a lot of timber floor there. So if the attack can get control there, if the Buck gets over there, if the Ram does, then it's going to be very awkward for the defense. Bit awkward there for Coop as he misses his first EMP. Probably not going to be a problem, as I believe that is both of the main breaches now opened. And of course, the roam game is the next point of inquiry for WEBL.
They're being slow and cautious. As he said, it's about wasting time. J1 wastes snaps. And they've got themselves into a little bit of a sticky situation here. For all the routes I said there's ways out, I mean, they could C4 themselves a route towards the top of Exo stairs there if they wanted to try and slip their way past the vending machine, but you don't want to be caught out. Ran with the drone, with the reveal on the Mozzie. They know they're being watched. It's just how much attention they can pull away from WEBL before they go for the pullback.
Hello?
Oh, what are you doing?
Bruh! What am I watching? How? Oh, and TJ walks straight into a cap can trap after getting a little bit scared by the presence of that Mozzie. It's so strange. They had such a normal position to play for the Mozzie, and the Buck was just not cautious enough. Here we go, though. The attack might be able to bring it back if WEBL can find a few more of those. The roam game has been won by the defense, and there will not be a map clear.
We'll talk about what happened before in a minute. Let's talk about the execute. Supreme is the long range, but gets slapped out of it. Coop's able to slink their way in. There's a bit of hard cover. You can go on the left. You have to keep the watch onto Exo door, or that happens. There they are, and this is the hop-up that they want. Just misses the fight, but they're going to see if they can try and smoke them out and force the fight. Very good throw there. Coop has to pull back. They're torn up by Temmie and picked apart by Baguette at the very end of that round. It is a BNA one. They push it over the edge. I mean, for all he did on the first map, that wasn't great from TJ there. It's not only that they're playing the known position, right? As you said, you expect some pressure from there, but it was droned 5 seconds beforehand.
Yeah, I don't know whether that was a miscommunication or just a bit of a brain delay moment from the Buck not making the connection. But yes, a bit of a mistake there. In my view, Emmy, you need to commit more to this roam clear. There was an opportunity there to go for a quick site push, but when the smoke is on the board, it's just never going to work out. And Nighthaven is such a vertible map. Like, there is so much floor that you can tear up looking down into that basement, and it's so powerful once you can do so. If you combine that with pressure from the breaches, you're probably going to win most of your rounds, assuming that you don't get flanked or lose some unlucky 1v1s. So for WEBL bringing the Ram and the Buck, they had all the tools, they just didn't work together enough to clear out the map and enable that vertical play. To their credit, I mean, it is very hard to clear Nighthaven. This is a huge map, and it is infeasible to try and clear the entire map. You have to choose a couple of rooms and then just flank watch. But unfortunately, one of those rooms is storage, which is where the Mozzie was, and you really need to be a bit more diligent than WEBL were that.
Attackers are heading out to defuse a bomb.
All right, from a great strong opener to a slightly fizzled second. We'll see if there's a third that gives a tail, maybe an even-handed round. That would be nice. The Ram still on the board. You can get some pressure and presence here over the top. I do enjoy seeing the Ram on certain sites. You get the 3 boogies you can get thrown through, and wow, thrown through. Supreme removed by Nap. Supreme was obviously the sort of MVP for BNA in the previous map, and here, 3 rounds in a row, they've been removed before they can try and get a kill.
Indeed. And an operator whose utility dies with them as well in that Warden. I'm not sure whether he brought the shield or the C4. Looks like the shield, so at least that will persist, but of course the smart glass is no longer. Now for WEBL, bit of a roam clear. Of course, this is a kitchen bomb site, so the idea here is you want to focus on breaching the roof above the site, and then breaching the lobby wall that looks into the site. There is a player at top lobby stairs, however, looking for a flank. Is WEBL aware of this?
That could be. That tell. TJ's making his way towards the top. They have the single player. Well, there's one less.
Yeah, now a drone. Surely J1 loses this. That's unfortunate. That gunfight could have turned the round on its head, but unfortunately for BNA, they're going to have to rely on some desperate heroics now. On the flank is Islet, but he is unfortunately barricaded off. He's going to try and sneak his way through. He can actually crouch through this without making a noise, but of course it's a 1 versus 5, and he is going the wrong way, and his phone is ringing. This simply is not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, they are exploding around the site and around the players. Let's gone for the big rotation, but we're looking at plants because they've been sent to the afterlife. A great strong take. Again, we've seen 2 different Weebles over these 3 rounds, and it's impossible to gauge whether it's just the site or just how they start. If things go well for them at the start, they just keep going. If things go badly for them, they disappear.
Yeah, indeed. And it's funny, really, isn't it? Because there's the 2 rounds that have been won by WEBL were actually flawless both times. Not a single kill was found by the defense, and that does not bode well at all. Even though BNA managed to get a successful defense on Assembly Tank downstairs, of course, as soon as you win a bomb site, it's locked for 2 rounds, which means that you can only play a bomb site and win it 2 times in a half. So BNA will need to find some comfort on one of these other bomb sites, whether it's Kitchen Cafeteria we just saw, or upstairs here in Server CCTV, where they're playing it for a second time now, or Storage Control downstairs, which hasn't been the most popular bomb site, especially not in Ranked. But it remains to be seen whether BNA will be able to bounce back. It is imperative they do so, because this is quite a defender-sided map. Holistically, worldwide, about 50-60% defender-sided, so you really expect whoever's on the defense start to find more comfort. And it was BNA who got to choose which side they start on. They picked defense. They need to back it in with a couple more round wins.
I think if we will get one more here, BNA will probably call a timeout. And
yeah.
It wasn't successful from them in the previous map. They did bite back at the very end of it, but at least having that conversation and stopping WEBL's momentum, a team that seems driven not only on the momentum that they get, but on the momentum that they already have from the previous map. It has been quick attacks. It's been quick bits of movement. I expected them to feel like the slower team versus BNA today after what I saw yesterday, but it really has been a great resurgence from a roster that had the rockiest day possible yesterday.
Yeah, well, credit to WEBL for bouncing back after the embarrassment that was yesterday. They did so as well on the first map order, where they started at a deficiency and brought it back. And interestingly now, Weeble are actually changing their strat. So last time they attacked this bomb site, they had the Buck, the Glaz, the Maverick. This time, a much more traditional Thermite Thatcher combo. And the Brava, as we see Ran at the moment. What is he going to be searching for with these drones?
He's able to ping out a lot. It would be so funny if they messed that up. But.
I thought he was going to fall into it for a second. Really, you want to be looking for the Fenrir FNATs with the Brava here. That's the top priority.
100%. Oh, and they don't get it. A little bit of a good Overwatch there. The awareness on the Brava.
Oh, look at this. An aggressive peek from the following door at top of, what do you want to call it? Fish or CC stairs? What was your call out for that, Emmy?
Aqua.
From Aqua, one peeking the Aqua door. But fortunately, you know, is able to get revived here. Now, there is a vault prompt here to get past this shield. And it's likely not safe to plant an exothermic, especially while low HP. Here comes a smoke, and that may well enable it.
There's a bit of pressure, a bit of bite stun to all the attackers. They're able to hold on for now, and a single piece taken from either side. But as they slink their way close to the site, it's the 40 seconds. Look how many of them are stacked on this single engagement. Is it just lying on the floor, hoping to arc this C4 in the right place?
Oh,
it goes through on the wall. It doesn't get the angle. They are full sending it onto the watch out here. If Weeble rotate the kit, they can get a plant. Instead, they just charge their way through and get torn up by breakdancing Islet. There's the pickup from Supreme onto one more. It is a bloodbath.
Oh, no.
And now it's a 1 versus 2. All because Weeble tried to force a fight. And I mean, I'm losing my words again.
I don't blame you. Credit to BNA. There were some pretty nasty shots there, particularly J1 in that last one. Didn't need to take such an aggressive angle, but BNA had a lot of confidence holding those positions. But as you said, you can definitely point at Weeble and say, look, that execute just was not it. And there was even a smoke still in pocket, or I believe it was the Dokkaebi, which could have been enabled to try and force down a plant. Unfortunately for Weeble, they got a little bit ahead of themselves. They tried to just sprint in. They got a little bit overconfident with their numbers advantage and fumbled it. As soon as that diffuser was cold on the ground, it was really a done deal. If anything, Weeble could have rotated that diffuser outside over to Blue or Aqua or Fish or CC Stairs, and then walking into the site that way, which was completely closed off. There was no way for BNA to deny that. And yet Weeble just looked for the easier, the faster path, and unfortunately were punished for it.
Yeah. I mean, that's all what it is. And yeah, we're omnipotent. We see everything.
Speak for yourself.
Well, as casters, we allowed a little bit of omniscience, and we can see where everybody is in the moving puzzle pieces that it is. And we can say, just plant there, it's easy. And that is trickier. And, you know, I don't know how many times I've talked about how communication and coordination, the back of it, is the struggle. But the fact that there was 2 players behind Pillar, one just lying in the sort of middle of the room, rather than holding the swing angle as well, it truly was just all or nothing. We think they're going to go for the plant here, and they were right. And, you know, and yeah, I'm not saying that was the whole plan. Obviously, 30 seconds, 40 seconds before, we saw the roamer up Aqua get caught out, and the flank attempt fail, but still. When that fails, I think at that point you go for the communication of let's try and pick up onto Aqua's side.
Changing mags.
Yeah, a lot of options, a lot of things that you could have done, but of course for Weeble now the time is past. They will have to think about that another time, as they won't be attacking that bomb site again this half. They will instead have to re-attempt the bomb site that they struggled to successfully attack last time. That is the basement assembly and tank. No more Buck is a bit of a surprise to me. I really rate the Buck pick. Not only can you do Vert, but you also have the hard breach available, which really is just Inno. He is the only player on the Weeble roster that has hard breach. And there's a lot you want to breach on this side.
This opening engagement, it was removed and scrappy last time round. Rand's trying to find.
Reload.
Fight on the angle, and look at the spread here. Temmie wants to swing and pop round. My worry is Weeble are quite spread out here on the approach. They're giving themselves these 1 versus 1s. It's 2 stories. towards Islet. And a Cap Can gets the kill onto one.
What's
They're
going
looking
on?
for the bandit charges.
Wow, what an angle.
Yeah, that's a great angle.
I've actually not seen that before. Credit to them. Oh, I managed to trick that. Oh, that is devastating, Emmy.
Yeah.
Weeble decided to only pick one hard breacher. It's just this thermite. Not even the Buck's secondary hard breachers to support. And the only exothermic charge has now been used to breach this main double wall, which in itself is not everything. Because it's very easy for the defense to prevent a plant in this wide open space, especially with Baguette here on the smoke. Adding insult to injury, Supreme has used his drone to get some information and go for an aggressive peek up the stairs. It's all looking down for Weeble as BNA are likely to take the lead.
Yeah, communication, how many times? I'm going to have like that just on a soundboard of little mistakes and little moments there. They weren't quite going for the full watch. It takes an extra couple of seconds to ensure that pops off. The spray's coming around. Supreme goes down to Coop. There's a player on the swing on the left, and Baguette swaps guns. The worst possible time. It's a technical one versus everybody here, as Coop is the only one standing. He has 4 seconds. He can't get the pickup. He suffers a scrape of a single shot around the corner. Temmie and J1 just have to close down, but they'll do it without anybody getting hurt. Time out on the end of it. And I mean, it's just all so scrappy from both teams.
It is a little bit Emmy, but for me, I harped on a lot about it in that round, but I really do want to just point to the lack of hard breach as a real villain for Weeble, and the lack of vertical play. We saw a little bit, but it seemed like Weeble were only doing that vertical play to deny the bandit juggle, and even then, it wasn't successful in completely denying it. There was still the possibility for the bandit to juggle that first charge. What you really ideally want to be doing on that basement site of Nighthaven Labs on the attack is you want to not only breach above where that main double wall is, but also all over the other side, which is actually inside of control room on the ground floor. If you can get some vert there, if you can open up all 3 of the hatches, or even just 2 of them, start putting potentially pressure on the staircases while tempting a plant on the breach, that is how that you lock out the defense. And unfortunately, Weeble just didn't have enough of those ingredients, and they were smoked because of it. Now there's one last chance to tie up the half, and after the 2 flawless attacks we've seen from Weeble, I really expect that they should get a third here. They deserve it, surely.
I think that's entirely it. And as I said, we're seeing 2 different Weebles. We're seeing the ones in the rounds where the take is really well coordinated, the take is really well put together, and then we're seeing ones like that where it just seems like they're operating at points with too much trust that things are just going to work out, that BNA aren't going to sort of try and put the pressure back in, and it's really hard to get the true taste of the pace. Obviously, there's been no timeout, there's been no conversation at this point. The shield in that place, there's obviously discs to stop someone just swinging around and getting rid of that with a breaching charge. I mean, there's a lot of windows on the route through. They want to huck it. What?
Yeah, what's going on here? Come on.
Mute jammer, I think. There we go. Or was it? No, they just... I don't know. I don't know, James.
Yeah, well, I do quite like this aggressive hold inside a conference room with the Wamai protected by a shield. I've never seen anything like this.
Yep.
And now it's going to be droned out. Like, this is pretty pivotal map control to take, right? Really need to clear out this conference room, because if you don't, that restricts most of the verticality onto that kitchen bomb site. And so this is an immovable object that we will have to clear.
I will say, you know, I've only been able to cast this once in EUL before, but they didn't play this site at all. Neither team did. So seeing it be like the third go-to here, it's good to get a taste of things. TJ's just tucked inside the side of sight, and Islet doesn't seem to know. They're holding onto the half walls, so they can't get caught out by the fight, but they're hoping someone goes a little bit wider, but there's no pings on the players. TJ's just watching the vertical that's being watched down. How he got into the position, I cannot tell you. How long he survives in this position, I also cannot tell you. There's little bits of movement, but he's still just waiting for that player above to make a bit of a mistake. However, it needs to be forced. It needs to be pushed, and as soon as he moves, surely the audio calls will come together.
Speaking of calls, here comes the Dokkaebi. Oh, here's an opportunity for TJ. No way! You can't be whiffing that! There's a chance here! that Islet is able to get away. Oh, what an embarrassment for TJ. But WEBL may be able to salvage it. The plant is going down under the window. The jump out was ill-advised as Islet has been able to take down Inno. Numbers advantage for BNA here in the final round of the half. But WEBL, of course, only have to cover in the post-plant. A great position for Coop. Doesn't have to overpeak, but Supreme, of course, goes down to Naps. And now this is a nigh impossible task for poor J1 and Islet. J1 taken extremely low and finished off by Naps. It's all done, surely. 15 seconds on the clock. Islet would need to find 3 picks and the diffuser. And he's playing a bit of a game of ring around the rosy. There's no chance to win it now. There's a final kill just to pad the stats, but the reply will, of course, come from Ran on the Ram, on the window, and WEBL will tie up the half 3 rounds apiece.
Well, you said they should have 3. They get it. We also get our first plant of the game so far as well on the final round, down in the kitchen. And, you know, it might have been prevented if it weren't for all the audio of what else was going on. The whiffs onto the Legion through the floor was a blow. Picking up and having the pistol, finally getting executed by the person watching the vertical. Let's have a glass half full look at that, and it stopped the vertical player having an awareness on the call on the planter. That's just an aspect of sort of looking at it. You still wouldn't be able to stop them in that position from above because it doesn't quite line up that way, but they might have been able to call some of the motions. They might have even been able to do something dashing and daring onto the hatch outside if they really felt spicy. But we find ourselves 3 apiece. We find ourselves once again leveled up. Last time we were here was, just the map before.
Indeed. But funnily enough, that was a map where we expected it to be attacker-sided, and this is a map that we expect to be defender-sided. So if anyone is going to be unhappy with that half, I think it's probably BNA. They would have liked the 4 rounds, and it was entirely achievable to do so. The 2 rounds that WEBL won on the attack near the start of that half were incredibly dominant, both flawless. And I don't expect BNA will have the same level of success, but it remains to be seen. Of course, this is WEBL's map pick, and also this is BNA's map to lose. They're the ones who have match point against them. Well, how do you call it? Series map against them? Wow, that was a perfect dodge there from the Exothermic. Managed to pull off just in time. Still baiting. Unsure what's going on with this claw, but EMP will deny this. And that claw will not detonate in time. There you go. Nice breach.
Yeah, the claw at that sort of deploy, even if the Exothermic is going off, it will pop off before the claw finishes its action. X-Kairos, they're even slower, so you could have caught that. The Bandit charges off faster. That's the basic math. Freaking DJ. It's for a 2-story fight, but it's actually Inno. They get the first bite of it. J1 goes down. They lose that Ash. We talked about how good Supreme and J1 were at that entry game, at that pressure game. If they aren't quite lighting up, that really plays into the favor here of WEBL because, well, they were the talismans of the attack. They were the ones that just kept the drive up and kept the pressure on.
Getting a breach is a nice step, but of course it's not everything. Here comes Supreme, though. Supreme has been so good on the entry in the first map, but struggling here in the second. 2 and 6 at the moment. With the first 2 picks already being to the way of the defense, this is a very big challenge for the attack.
We get on an LMG again. Not Zafir this time. They said they played Zafir a lot and didn't really get any use of it, so instead they moved on to Finka LMG. And, well, as Ren... I mean, they're doing their best to hold on to Pillar, but, you know, there's a lot of time here, and you're sort of looking at the remaining BNA players and going, okay, well, what's the plan B here?
And Nate does not really a lot here for BNA, and this power position behind that pillar is proving to be incredibly difficult to clear. It would be nice if Islet could get a breach on, but it doesn't seem to be happening. In fact, he doesn't have any players. Could this be the 3rd flawless round for WEBL? Unfortunately, not so, as TJ is playing spoils, and, well, Naps to find the final kill. WEBL once again take the lead here and start strong on their defense.
I mean, the BNA stance there, they lost the opening couple of bodies, and they just started trying to swing these angles individually. They didn't rotate as a team. They didn't rotate as a unit. They had, what, one player in IT, one player was rotating around onto Aqua, and then you had one putting pressure over Electric. If you think about maybe having that IT player help on that Electric kill, it probably would have been a kill. If you just have one grenading and one watching the rotate instead of the same person doing both jobs. You know, if you have someone in a position to hold onto Aqua as you go for the rotate together, they had a lot of time. And it just felt like they didn't quite have the right idea on how to progress together with what was left and try and get some confirmed kills. It's the first round. And yeah, maybe I'm going a little bit too much on what they can improve, but at the same time, they only have a couple of rounds left.
Yeah, that's a scary thing for BNA, isn't it? WEBL won the first map. This is a BO3. And WEBL now on their own map pick, now on the favored side of defense. They're the ones who are just coasting. BNA are the ones who have to put in the hard yards, put in the extra work to make sure that this, at minimum, goes to overtime. Even then, I still favor WEBL when it comes to overtime. Even if BNA are able to push to a map 3, I would still favor WEBL on Skyscraper based on the overall history. BNA are really not doing themselves any favors by restricting their hard breach here on the attack. Once again, similar to what we saw from WEBL, only a single thermite.
Oh, they're going to go with the bandit, or against the bandit trick here. TJ's a little bit distracted by what's ahead of them. They threw it on both walls and they baited the first one so they could at least get the single wall open. Now you can see the bandit was tricking the other, expecting double wall to be pushed as well. And to be fair, it's equally important, but the fact that they have not only the bandit, the Kaid, who means, well, yeah, they're just going to see if they can move it on the back of the Supreme. And they get the first fight. Pre-fires a little bit early, removing utility, blinded on the sense wall there, so they can slip their way through with a bit of audio, gets the cover on a new position, hopes to find the fight elsewhere, ducks in, but gets dropped by the lying down player. The plant is still being connected. Islet gets caught though! The rotate comes through, it's 4 versus 2. WEBL still have that man advantage. Baguette gets knocked off as well, leaving just a Thatcher watching a room on fire and all of their teammates caught inside of it. They went for the rush. They went for the plant behind the sense wall. There's one more gifted to Temi. But with no real other ideas on the back of this, he's just trying to fish for fights. TJ's pulled himself back. Swings round when he gets the confirmation of the gun. WEBL, they put themselves up to a distance of 2.
Wow, that was a round-winning play. I can't remember which player did it, but whoever sprinted through that sense wall and denied the plant with less than a second left before it was secured, even though I believe they were just immediately traded, that was absolutely worth it. That was the round-winning play for WEBL. And had that plant managed to get off, BNA win that even in a numbers deficit. The position of that plant with the little window inside of Animus that the attacking can play in a post plant, like that's just, it's not a very losable position for the attack. And so the defense realized the win condition here is plant denial. They sent everything they had onto it. And conversely, right, for BNA on the attack there, the win condition was getting that plant down at any cost. We saw that from Supreme, who arguably went a little bit too deep, overpeaked a little bit too much. But if he was further back and just, let's say, standing on top of the plant, so all you have to do is deny that one player. Even if you lose the fight, even if you just deny the plant denial, that round is probably a win for the attack.
Seconds left.
Well, this is the problem about his positioning there. He made the right move to go to the other side of tank. Get the watch on. He didn't need to swing cargo door. He didn't need to try and take the fight at Nano Hall. That player is not having any impact on your plant attempt at that point. If they wanted to, they would either have to try and rotate onto cargo door on your left, which you would hear and maybe get an idea of if you stay on the tank side of it, or nano door, where you had that guy go for that hero play. His position of going too deep was almost the opposite of, as he said, WEBL did great to play the objective. Play your life, but you stop the objective. There, the error from Supreme was he played his life without thinking about where he needed to be for the objective itself. He just went 4 feet too far. Bye-bye. Again, cooks him. Makes him a sandwich.
I've got to say, there's a couple players in the server that on map 2 have really turned it up compared to map 1. Baguette's had a couple of moments. The one that really shines for me is Ran. On the Solus now, 9 kills to 3 deaths, and this is the player that struggled to even find any frags in the first game. Now here comes some hard breach. This is from the lobby side, looking into kitchen. That wall goes directly onto site and opens up a plant spot. Also, completely suffocates these defenders on site. You pair this with a bit of vertical pressure, and there are very few safe places for the defense to sit and hide on the site.
I guess it's the reason that Kitchen can become a bit of a rocky third pick. Obviously, we're seeing it again here from the Korean sides. As I said, I didn't see it from the EUL sides I got to cast. With Naps gone, with Oops struggling and suffering quite a lot, but not quite finished off. He's okay for now as well. The sort of arc here, so you assume that damage came from above. Supreme gets the read in of anyone that might be around the kitchen. Hey, nobody's here, but they have that angle round on the back and at least a little bit of a watch. TJ goes for the swing, gets caught out there. Another player drops. It is only Coop left as the plant is going around on his left shoulder. Should, there it is, get caught out as soon as a BNA player gets into position.
Well, thankfully for BNA, they finally right the wrongs of the last 2 rounds and get their first attack on the board. It was a very challenging defense for WEBL, but it comes down to a lot of simple things, Emmy. As soon as BNA had that main lobby breach and they started to suffocate those defenders, there weren't any places to hide on site. There was plenty of drone work available for BNA to figure out where those last players were, what map control they could lap up. There was just nothing for WEBL to do about it. It was a done deal. Now that is just the first of many attacks that we're going to need to see from BNA to salvage this game and therefore the series. It does feel inevitable, though, to me, Emmy, that WEBL will come away with this. I mean, they had 2 very solid defenses, and BNA have a lot of work to do to reply.
Oh, 100%. I think the fact that we've seen 2 solid defenses in response on what are the 2 primary sites. You know, the third site, as I sort of highlighted there, it's a very much up in the air thing. You're on a new map. Everything is like being learned, but you start with the 2 that are the most confident, right? You start on the 2 where, well, if we take these 2 consistently, we'll win the game. We have the 4-2 half. If we get it on the third, well, it's good, but there has to be a weaker point of this armor. There has to be a weaker place, and until you get the ideas of what other people are doing, you know, you're still piecing things together.
Well, it comes down to a bit of a roam clear at first. Of course, the bomb site choice here for defense is server CCTV on the top floor. That is some peculiar dirt. I'm not sure what the go was there. It's just a whole...
I've seen BDS do this, and it is deadly. So you can have an angle underneath there, and you can have one on kitchen that leads just into the watch on the sort of server door. Not the server door, even the meeting hall door. Interconnector, and you can kill 2 or 3 people. I think it was Mowgli was down there terrorizing an approach, because if you don't think about it, and if you don't clear out that Wamai of Naps, they can just rotate quickly and cut anyone down that tries to rotate in from that side. And look at it, there's TJ now playing that angle too, and it's just horrifying.
Very creative. I love that. Oh no, the second EMP almost was not ready in time. That Exothermic was almost tricked. We'll keep an eye on that vertical hole later in the round, but for now it seems there's a lot of focus here on Garage, where BNA have now managed a massive gaping hole on site, putting that pressure on and threatening a plant. Here comes the first engagement, though. Baguette has no idea. Spots the player for a brief moment, and Naps is just not ready for it. Here comes the refrag attempt from TJ, but not quite quickly enough.
Yeah, Baguette wasn't entirely sure of any of the fights that are coming his way. He survives the sack and take. They've got control here at the top of Aqua, and they're going to try and slink their way into the back end of CC. The first time we've seen a team go for what is a solid take, but then they lose out. They had that fight with the player, and then they just sort of lost the follow-through there. Supreme is now a bit isolated, but they're more than happy to take fights. However, TJ has left. The Fenrir gadget is causing a bit of a stun and a slow. Ram with the C4 is ready to rip and tear, but there's a drone on the right, just keeping the keen eye on him. And you have to swing that.
Very unfortunate now for WEBL. BNA have a fantastic position, but TJ's come up for a flank from Garage. Immediately traded back, and J1 as well to jump into the fray. Coop in a 1 versus 3. He has an angle, watching the players entering side. Gets the down and the finish onto the Thatcher. Time is his ally, as BNA must reclaim that diffuser, now in Supreme's pocket and getting forced down onto the ground. Coop has to win this fight onto J1, and he does! The second kill must follow through, but Supreme is the ultimate closer and does not let that round be robbed once again.
Okay, 5 apiece. We are perpetually rotating around and back and forth between these two teams. It has been repeatedly locked up and evened out, and there's always the possibility of another overtime. WEBL will maybe be kicking themselves at a couple of that, but again, it's still scrappy. The Jackal's route there through the first engagement, you know, they see the back of a player, they fire a couple of shots, give the game away, but at least follow up with the kill, and then they have the next engagement where they were just sort of back towards the route there, and I mean, things trade out, things happen.
A truer statement hath never been said. Things indeed happen.
Things are happening.
Tis the way of the world, and I'm pretty gobsmacked that round panned out how it did. Did not think BNA would be able to claw back that.
It's just the very frustrating thing of things keep happening as well. It really, whether it's the pressure of the game, whether it's the length of the games, whether it's the stress of the new map, then it also happened on Border, is there keeps being this just, it's not quite goldfish memory, but you keep seeing things happen, and we're like, this is still a thing, and you know, you'd compare it to other teams where they would have that watch, they would keep the advantage, they would keep that lockdown, but then they just get laser focused on the next objective, the next thing, and whether it's the stress of time or the pressure on what they tried to pick up from yesterday, it keeps leading these little moments that are taken away by their opponent. Both teams are doing that.
Credit to BNA on the attack. I like this Jackal pick that we're seeing from Baggett, and it proved to be quite effectual last round, taking out that first player roaming down below. And on this massive map, on this basement bomb site, you need to be able to maintain map control, gain map control in the first place, and that is the Jackal's task right now, hunting down these roamers. Elsewhere, the rest of the team is looking to get a breach on, but once again, only a single hard breacher has been picked. Instead, the investment has gone into having the Jackal and the Nomad. I really feel like a Buck or an Ace would have done wonders here for BNA.
They're going to go for the breach onto the double wall this time, rather than the single wall and the attempt on the quick break and clear. They're pinging off the opposite end. You know, as I said, they still have all the electricity in the world, so if they really wanted to, they could try and keep the standing. Hey, look, there's the electricity of all the world. The first gets caught out, the second gets swapped out. EG goes back to the breach to make sure that's staying solid. The roots and rolls come through. Now, although the hatches are electric to stop the drops, you can open a lot of angles to shepherd the players out of positions to be held, and that's sort of what leads Supreme ahead around the corner. Brilliant take off of the back of the ping there on where the player might have been. They've wrested control here of EXO, and as they tuck themselves in towards that side of the half and hoping nobody gets on the rotate on the back, they can start thinking about the plant here, which TJ is the man preventing.
This is the best chance any attacking side has had of taking this tank assembly bomb site today. BNA is right on the cusp of it, that plan being forced down. Coop from WEBL looking for the opportunity to throw this C4. He could well be swung. No, the C4 is a miss, and a crucial mistake for WEBL will surely lose them the round. Unless if these two players can perform a miracle. Supreme is low HP. Ino is just around the corner from him and caught on a camera, but Supreme is there for the swift headshot. Ran also dispatched with effortlessly, and BNA have found map points, are on the verge of forcing us to a third.
Will we have a timeout? Yes, we will. WEBL. They've seen 3 rounds go away from them. Only the second time in this showdown we've had 3 rounds delivered in a row. When was the last time? Oh, I'll tell you, James. It was this exact set of rounds at this exact moment in the game of the opposite team last time. 4, 5, and 6 was taken by WEBL in the build-up towards the end. And then we go to 6 and OT.
I'm thriving in the anticipation of this moment. Will Weeble be able to push overtime? They have struggled 3 defenses in a row. They tried kitchen, they tried server, they tried assembly, and a miss every single time. This is immediately after winning 2 defenses on both the top floor and the bottom floor. BNA have finally figured out how to crack through these defenses. Weeble simply do not have a response.
What do WEBL do here? Now, last time they took the time out, they're actually successful on the round immediately on the back of it. It's the perfect time. And, you know, they're going back down here onto the basement. They think that they can try and keep it a little bit calmer and under control. Again, little moments. I think they're the highlight, the swing onto the drone, shooting that and not the player. It's rough. And it's rocky when it happens, but it's really the stress of that time, the stress of that moment. If they'd got that kill, then suddenly it's a 2 versus 2, and they have a little bit of wiggle room on their retake. It's still a post plant. It's still not done and not easy, but little maps, little moments.
Yeah, I mean, games, especially in this meta, really do come down to those tiny little moments. And for me, the turning point has been in those die moments where the plant is going down, where there's usually a numbers equality or like a 3v4, and the team that weathers that storm will win this game. And so far, the last 3 rounds in a row, that has been BNA. There's still a part of me holding out hope for Weeble. I backed them in before this series started, and I'm going to do it now as well. They have the favored side. They have this basement bomb site beset before them once again. They've got a bit of a roam game to deny that dominant map control that BNA established for themselves previously. They also have the Bandit Juggle primed and ready to deny the only hard breach that BNA have brought to the table.
If things go away here from the hard breach and the rotate, Ambi Weevil setting the pace. There's a fight all the way on the top floor to open this up. They realized that the vertical would come through, and you know, Nap said, let me take the risk. Let me see if I can slow it down. Them going and losing the fight isn't going to happen. They take Supreme. They're looking for the second as well. And the fact they're doing this with, what, 2 impacts. TJ's now to offer some support. 3, no, 4 discs in pocket. It truly is this full send onto the gun game. J1 gets caught by cap cans. And things are starting to fall a little bit off here for BNA. Nap swings onto the Gat. At this point, you think that this is their round, right?
Yeah, it really surely should be. Finally, the finish off onto J1. Fortunate victim of those Capcan traps, and it turns out the Capcan was the perfect pick here to enable this roam game. You can see Islet quite frustrated by them, finally taking down some of those Capcan traps. Took a second or 2, but eventually finished them off. 2v4. Low HP on Naps, but also Islet is not full health. It looks like there's a rotate here to go for the breach. I just don't think this is going to work. Like, you're walking straight into a crossfire, even with your Thermite and Thatcher available. You're never going to make this work just by pushing the breach.
There's the holdout, and there's the holdout. Locked in, finds 2. Hey, James, guess what?
We're going to overtime here. We have overtime. I'm very glad for it, Emmy, because Weeble, I don't think they deserve to go down 7-5 in this game. But guess what? It was Weeble to push overtime on the back of their tactical timeout, and now that we hit OT, it's BNA who are going to pick the tactical timeout and see if they can conjure up something, especially considering that they're going onto the attack again, it looks like, here in overtime. Well, they've got their work cut out for them.
I mean, at this drive, at this sort of point, you're thinking, what can they talk about? What can they bring here that said, they have their work cut out against them. They've been successful on attacks. And they've been successful on attacks on pretty much all the same sites. Obviously, they took server, took assembly. Have lost assembly twice. There's a chance they're going back there. I can't speak Korean, but I can see no numbers at the start of that, so we are.
Yep. Yeah, this is the basement site once again. And
Yep.
I think this is predictable, right? Like, so WEBL obviously will go back to the basement where they just won a very convincing defense. But BNA should be able to predict that. I think most people would expect that WEBL to go back to the bomb site that they've just won, and the only bomb site they've won in the last 4 rounds. But the real question is, BNA, like, how are you going to change your strategy? It looks like they're bringing basically the exact same set of operators. Nothing vastly different. No ram, no bark, no more vertical play. No rush operators like your Ying. No shields to try and pull off a fast plant. And WEBL are, for the most part, sticking the same thing as well. I believe the Goyo is new for Naps instead of that Wamai, but as we said, didn't exactly need nor use the Wamai discs last round, and I think this Goyo is the right pick. But this is really just going to come down to this roam game, in my view.
Attacker's objective is to locate a bomb.
6 apiece, BNA. You've had your conversation, you've had your reset, and it's either a couple rounds are ahead of you or a whole other map for that 5th place spot. We'll come across here. Baguette. I mean, the Jackal is always the sort of watch. We've had a lot of eyes on them at the start of rounds, but they haven't always had the eyes on the start of the round, especially on attack. They've struggled with the read in here. They have the built up. They're cautious of players that are loose. When it's a Solace that, well, I was going to say a Solace that knows they're being watched. That one might not be so aware.
Still, Supreme really has to land this entry. It's a very disconnected roam clear here for BNA. They're not stacking players together. They're instead trying to pinch players. And unfortunately, that does mean that you're delivering ones to Naps, who has been on fire this map.
I mean, it's the duo of Naps and TJ at the top floor.
Oh.
There's another one. Jackal
That's a good
caught
round.
out, and I mean, it's frustrating because they're just struggling to root out these pushes. It's the same problems I talked about on the previous map, where that drive isn't quite connecting behind the utility, behind the catches of this. You've got you've got great guns, you've got grenades, you've got the Jackal tracks. You've seen where that player has come from before. You could get a hot read on the feet there, and they just don't move it in. There's the play on the Bandit, there's the trick, and there's the round in that, I think. Not just the 2 kills before, but it's such a long rotate here.
Yeah, it is. And there's
We're
not much you
watching
can
the
do
whole
about it.
rotate. We're following it all. We're not missing a step here.
Riveting action. But yeah, I mean, there's some decent pre-placed drones by the looks of it. But the only way that BNA win this is that they force down the stairs and win a lot of gunfights that they shouldn't even be given. If WEBL are smart, they will just pull back, maintain their man advantage. There's already a pre-placed C4. I'm not sure whether that was on the back of the default cam or based on an audio call, but it could well be the 4th flawless round in this game for WEBL. And it comes at a moment where they have the match point now before them. An opportunity to close this series and take 5th place in the Korea League.
One more round, WEBL. One more overtime win. Apparently, this is how you win games. I think this means that every map win that they've taken throughout this phase 2 and sprint has been overtimes. And they haven't once changed that.
They really are the masters of overtime.
They love it. If they get to overtime, they succeed. BNA, I mean, they're starting here on their defense. They're starting down in server, or assembly even. And both times that they were here, they won it. So they have a good steading. There were mistakes from WEBL. I instantly go back to the Bandit trick on the wall that they'd opened the vertical to stop it and then just moved away before the gadget had finished executing. They would have got the kill there for free onto Islet if they paid attention.
10 seconds left.
I'm trying to remember the almost successful attack
look
onto
at
this
that
basement
lineup.
with that
Seconds
plant.
left before insertion.
What's this? What did I miss?
Look at the attackers. They've all just swapped to on the left.
I love that. I thought you were talking about like a vertical, like an angle.
No,
lineup
I
or
mean
something, like a C4.
When you see 4 players
slew of operators
swap,
Ugh.
we're gonna see something quick, fast, and dangerous.
They tried this rush strategy twice on the other map. Was unsuccessful. Let's see if they can deliver here. The Sens and Glaz combo is perfect. And the Blitz is already in. The tip of the spear is starting to make an impact, but is immediately denied. And Ran is taken down. Now, is there a chance to force down a plan? The diffuser hides in Coop's poor mittens as he falls to a C4. 2 players left. I can't believe it, Emmy. This could not have gone worse for WEBL. They had the strat, they had the plan, and then shit just hit the fan. They fell apart, and we're going to round 15.
I mean, it was like, you know, the famous phrase, if you can do it, I can do it better, right? That was almost, you can do it, I can do it worse. Because it was shut down before. And they went for the play, they went for the take. And I mean, I'm
WEBL just aren't very good at rushing, I gotta say that. Like, they don't have a great track record on their rushes at the moment.
But wasn't,
I always
no, but the
respect
last
rush
time
call.
that rush, it was B&A. It was B&A, wasn't it?
I'm thinking of the map. Did they? Oh yeah, you're right. They did try and rush that same bomb site, and that almost did work. I'm thinking more back to, remember first round of Border where Weeble just like jumped in the windows and all died.
Yep.
Yeah, Weeble. They don't mind a blitz. They picked it 3 times in this series now, and the Sens Glaz combo.
Apparently, B&A don't mind a blitz either, because we've seen the blitz die 3 times pretty much quickly. They got 1 kill on the second when there wasn't the communication, but at the same time, I mean, it's just right. You know how I feel?
Yeah, well, Weeble got it. A quick game's a good game, is what Weeble like to say. But only for the round, not for the match, of course. If Weeble's in the match, it will go to a full 15-round overtime. And now this is really where we answer the question, are B&A going to replicate their second attack onto the CCTV server bomb site? Or will Weeble manage to get their back up, successfully defend this, which they struggled to do in the latter portion of their defensive half?
I mean, the one successful attack that we've sort of seen on this site from the swing round was done on the Aqua Drive, was done on the presence there. There was attention sort of paid towards it. They put the pressure around, and at that point you see it. Naps suffers the first scrape. J1 is just checking out if anyone's around the corner before they play this to remove player or the chance of the tricking. Or by a magnet. Slows down the timing. That one will at least get some destruction done. No, don't do that. TJ does get baguette, though. The Jackal is gone. The Solace that might have been scanning them on their gadget.
It's actually a perfect counter there. The Jackal visible to the Solace while the Jackal is using his gadget. Now, a good flank watch drone set up by Supreme. And progress made. J1 inside IT already looking to get aggressive. This is really the only chance for B&A. They're at a numbers deficit. They have to try and make something work. But J1 is completely out of nays to flush out these key positions. It might not matter, though. Supreme has found one. Coop has successfully tricked this garage wall. And TJ managed to frag back on Supreme. It's all gone down south for B&A. 3 versus 4. And no adequate way to get into the site.
No hard breach, no fight. They cannot get the swing on IT. It's just narrow doorways. There's players behind the pillars. 2 of them stacked up on that door. This is WEBL's to lose. They have all the angles and idea. There's a big separation between the remaining players. The Thatcher's trying to get some pressure onto Aqua, maybe draw a player away. They're hoping WEBL players lean into a fight and an engagement. They're sort of drawing as much focus as possible. That'll get caught out by another disc. The pillar player isn't swinging, so now the rotate comes around. Both of them on Aqua. If this gets called... I mean, there's a first take. There's a quick response. 20 seconds. They're able to get one more, a 2 versus 1. They know where the final player is. They have the hot pings. They have 13 seconds. An Impact, the Solis, TJ, and Ran, 2 players that have been fantastic throughout this map. They swing, they flash, they get dropped. We will get 5th place.
Quite an anti-climax at the end of it for WEBL, but redemption is achieved after falling victim to Talon in one of the fastest matches we have seen in Rainbow Six ever.